raving imbecile, a poet, a statesman, a man of letters, or just a literate court jester, a scoundrel, a gentleman, a heretic, a rogue?
Come on through.
Or maybe, just maybe, a brilliant and gifted humorous weaver of story. You decide. Michael J. Herman has been speaking professionally since the age of 4 when his uncle Cecil Swalowitz paid him $1 to shut up for 5 minutes. Although Mike lost that bet, it was the start of an illustrious speaking career. As an award-winning comedy writer for network sitcoms, Michael has written for Married with Children, Seinfeld, Cheers, and In Living Color, just to name a few. Michael J. Herman is a Toastmaster ATM Gold. He served as Area 8 Governor of District 52 in 1992. Michael has won 2 regional Toastmasters humor contests, and despite his many accomplishments, Toastmasters still wants the trophy back. Michael is the author of 9 books, including How to Win Friends and Influence People the Jewish Mother Way, and The Cat's Meow, and is senior editor-head writer for CSQ magazine. Michael's biggest comedy credit is that he is married to Penny, who's in the back. Please welcome Michael J. Herman, presenting comedy. How does it hurt?
Hey, Michael.
Thank you very much. Let's have a hand for the introducer.
Yay.
Comedy, how does it work? One of the greatest feelings you can have as a speaker or as an entertainer, as a human being, is making someone laugh. Seeing their eyes bulge, their mouths stretch the entire length of their skulls, and seeing them beg for mercy so you'd stop so they can get a breath. But comedy is not just a hobby. Comedy and humor is serious business. People spend their entire lives honing, crafting, developing, and selling that one joke. How does it work? Comedy has 4 major forms that we're going to talk about today. I'm not left-handed, so I'm going to do it this way. First one is relatability. That's like me. You say something funny and I laugh, it's because I relate to it. You see someone fall down and you say, that happens to me all the time. You see someone, drop food on their lap at the restaurant and say, that's really funny because it didn't happen to me this time. Right? Relatability, it ties it to you. That's what makes you laugh. Relatability is not only a fundamental of humor, it's a fundamental of storytelling, right? You want to be in the listening, in the knowing, in the feeling of people that are in need of your humor, whether it's humor or comedy, whether it's pathos and emotion. You want to be in the listening. How do they hear it? Relatability. Number 2 is overboard, right? Exaggerated, big, giant, huge, small, infinitesimal, on and on and on. In comedy writing, in the TV rooms, in the movie development world, we call that a gag pipe. When something goes on and on and on, it makes you laugh harder and harder and harder, right? Like in There's Something About Mary, right? Who remembers that movie?
Yeah.
1, 2, we got a bleeder! Right? Exactly, that's called a gag pipe. Exaggerated. Talking dog story is exaggerated. Guy sees an ad in the paper. Talking dog for sale. Can't be a dog. Talking dog for sale. Calls it up, says, you got a talking dog for sale? Yeah, come on over. So he goes over, knocks on the door. The guy opens the door, says, I'm here about the talking dog. He's in the living room. Go see him. He's watching TV. Guy walks into the living room. Just dog sitting on the couch, legs crossed, arms spread, watching the big screen TV. smoking a stogie. Dog says, "Hey man, hold on a minute, my show's almost over." The guy's eyes bulge out of his head. It's a talking dog. He waits. The dog clicks off the TV and says, "What's up, Mac?" "I can't believe it. You're a talking dog. You're a talking dog." Dog says, "You don't know the half of it. I grew up in the pound and then I got rescued and I was a fire and police rescue dog. I saved hundreds of lives. Then I went to war and I saved thousands of men from burning bombshells and exploding IUDs. Got the Congressional Medal of Honor from the President. Then I came back to Hollywood and I became an acting dog. I was in over 100 TV shows, movies, and commercials. And now I just retired. Just want to sit and watch TV and eat my food." The guy is just unbelievably aghast. He just cannot believe what he's seeing, what he's hearing. He walks back into the room and says to the guy, "Why in the world are you selling that talking dog? Because that dog is a liar." Overboard, exaggerated. It's beyond belief, right? It's like when you see shows on TV like Mad TV. It's overboard. It's so absolutely bizarre, beyond what you expect. That's overboard and exaggerated.
It's intro.
And crazy. Who knows crazy? I go crazy. I have lots of friends. Most of them crazy. Monty Python. There's something about Mary. Those are examples of crazy comedy. It's in another realm of storytelling. It's inconsistent. It's something that you don't expect. It's part reality, like a guy's walking down the street, and then crazy, he falls through a manhole. And he comes up the next manhole. That's crazy, right? But it's inconsistent. It's crazy Monty Python comedy. We love that. Americans, we're not as good at it as, say, other places like Great Britain, but it's one of the most difficult forms of comedy to master. It's one of the most consistently successful forms of comedy to produce. And of course, as Toastmasters, we know self-effacing humor, pointed at ourselves. It takes the blame away from someone else and makes us the victim of the joke. Right? Self-effacing humor, who's the master of that? Rodney Dangerfield. No one ever has been more successful than Rodney Dangerfield at self-effacing humor. Don Rickles, also self-effacing humor. Although he mixes it, he directs it at other people as well. He's kind of a mean self-effacing humor comedian, but still self-effacing. And Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright is very good at the self-effacing humor. He's probably the top comic right now in the self-effacing humor brand. Those are the four kinds of comedy that I wanted to talk about. I want to now share a couple of stories and demonstrate how they work in those four forms, right? So the first one is not comedy. First one is a story form of drama through which I demonstrate a lot of comedy in my life and in my speaking and publishing. So if you give me just a moment. I'm 5 years old. I'm in the rafters of my parents' garage. Smells like wood and sawdust, motor oil and metal. The way a garage should smell. And you're with my friend Debbie. She was down the street. She's okay. She's a girl. Love the smell of the garage. Right over here is where all the stuff is, the rakes, the cement, the bricks, the wood, and everything. And over there, on the other side of that gap, is another whole place where the cool stuff is, the bikes, the toys, the presents, the stuff I'm not supposed to touch. But in between, there's a gap. Debbie, look over there, there's some wood we can put on over the gap. I walk over, I pick up the wood, sheetrock, and I lay it down over the gap. I step on the sheetrock, and it splits in two. And I fall 12 feet through the platform and land head first on the concrete slab. I spend the next 4 weeks in a degenerative coma after 4 days of brain surgery and 9 months of total blindness and paralysis. There's something wrong here. But the problem is not that I can't see or I can't speak. I can't move left side of my hand. The problem is, what do I do now to get from here back to here? Now, what did I just do there? I painted a picture that drew you in. Every eyeball was focused on me. And every word that I just said is absolutely true. Now, that is not funny, but the rest of my life is pretty funny. Which goes to prove that comedy comes out of tragedy. And the best comedy comes out of tragedy. And I've used my entire life of disability, paralysis, crisis, rehabilitation, and success to motivate other people. So what happened after those 9 months? Well, I had to teach myself how to speak. Because if I couldn't speak, no one was going to be able to do anything to help me, right? Like, if I want you to help me get better, you need to know what I want from you, right? But they didn't know how to teach me to speak, so I had to teach myself. Then I taught myself how to speak. Then I taught myself how to use the left side of my body. And then over time, I taught myself how to see again. The whole time being told I'd never see again. But when I came out of the coma, I wasn't only paralyzed, my brain was recovering, and it was growing. New pathways, new connections, new nerve endings. And I was able to rebuild a life because I was a little boy when that happened. But when this was happening, I developed tics, twitches, right? Fingers, faces, snapping my finger, tapping my toe, clearing my throat, noises. Some sort of physical manifestation is the way my brain was healing. I was 13 years old and moving from New York to Los Angeles. Another metaphor for how do I get from here to there. And I knew that they didn't know anything about me. And I didn't want them to know that I was this disabled kid. I was different in New York. Everybody knew I was different. They were there when I became different, right? I didn't want to go to a new place. I was 13. You don't want to be different when you're 13. You don't want to be anything except what everybody else is when you're 13. So I went to camp, and I was at camp, and it was a summer, and I was learning to shave, and I was discovering rock and roll, and discovering girls, and becoming a man. And I was in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and I saw myself twitch. And I thought, that's weird, what was that? And a moment later, I saw it again. And I went over to the counselor and said, hey, Scott, do I twitch my face? And he said, yeah, you twitch your face. You're doing it right now. He laughed like everybody knew. Well, of course everybody knew, except me. So I went over to the camp doctor. Doc, how do I stop my face from twitching? He said, you can't stop your face from twitching. Once you're disabled, you can't be not disabled. You can't tell your brain what to do. Your brain tells
You what to do.
you what to do, exactly. But that didn't make sense to me. Why would I not be able to tell my brain what I wanted to do? I mean, I'm 13. Why wouldn't I be able to control my own face? So I spent every day for the next 7 weeks staring in the mirror, watching my face as it twitched, watching as it didn't twitch, watching as I made it twitch, I made it do all kinds of weird things in the mirror. And 7 weeks later, no twitching. That was phase 2 of recovery. Phase 3 came when I was in high school. I was in 9th grade. And I was in all special ed classes. 7, 8, 9 kids in a class and 2 teachers. Very focused special ed education. They couldn't teach me fast enough. I absorbed it like a sponge. They teach me something, boom, got it, next. They just didn't know how to teach me. So I went over to my guidance counselor and I said, Mrs. Johnson, how do I overcome my learning disability? And she said, you can't overcome your learning disability. Once you're learning disabled, you're always learning disabled. Now that sounded familiar. I said, what are you talking about? Why can't I not be learning disabled anymore? And she said, Mike, once you're learning disabled, that's it. There's no other way to overcome learning disability. And it just didn't make any sense to me. I just came from over there to here. There's got to be a way to get from here to over there. And Mrs. Johnson said, I'm sorry, there's really nothing you can do. So I spent the entire 9th grade reading books that were way beyond me, doing things that were way beyond me, pushing myself beyond. Why did I do that? Because I knew, just like when I was paralyzed and I couldn't walk and I couldn't move the left side of my body, and they'd give me a walker and I'd throw it away and I'd say, I'm not using that because if I can't walk on my own, I don't want to walk at all. After all, I was 5. What if when I was 15 or 25 or 40 and I couldn't walk, who was going to help me walk then? Nobody. I had to stand on my own 2 feet then and now. Mrs. Johnson said, there's nothing you can do, can't overcome learning disability. The beginning of 9th grade, I was on a 7th grade reading level and a 4th grade math level. At the end of 9th grade, I was on a university reading level and a 9th grade math level. Now, this is not to say I'm great. It's not to show you what I can do. It's to demonstrate what you can do. It's not that hard. It just takes a really, really long time. Okay. So that's one story form. Drama. Okay. Very, very dramatic beginning, drama throughout, a little comedy sprinkled in there. However, have you ever had one of those days that just don't go the right way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? This is interactive, people.
Yeah.
One of those days when you wake up and shortly thereafter you just wish you could have just rolled over instead of getting out of bed. Well, not too long ago, I had a day like that. I was given a presentation at the California Men's Correctional Facility called the California Correctional Facility for Really Bad People. I was given a speech on the topic of self-esteem and goal setting. And shortly after the middle of the speech, a buzzer started to ring. Wah, wah. I can't replicate it. It was so piercing. Wah. And a bright yellow flashing light began going off right over my shoulder. Just then, 250 very large inmates stood up in unison and left the room. The gentleman that came over to me, a guy named Chuck Smith, came over, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, Mike, we have a problem. And I said, yes, I know. My audience just walked out of the room. He said, no, Mike, you have a problem. Because we're experiencing what's known as administrative shutdown, which means we're controlling all movement within the facility until further notice. And you have to make a decision. You can either wait in my office, which is not a secure environment, so if something happens, we're not responsible. Or you can wait in my office, or I can put you in a prison cell until this is over. Well, I'm a professional speaker. My first obligation as a professional speaker is to the client. Make him look good, make his problems go away, or as little as possible. So I said to him, you want me to go in a prison cell? He said, it's only going to be for a couple of hours tops. As soon as this is over, I'll personally escort you out with armed guards. Well, I thought, how bad could it be? I mean, I was once stuck in an elevator for a couple of hours, once got locked in a closet for a couple of hours. How much worse could it be? And the other thing that went through my mind is protect yourself. You're in a crazy, dangerous place here. You want to be secure. So he put me in the prison cell. Suit, tie, hat, briefcase, tote bag, slide projector, pogo stick, you know, everything speaker uses in his repertoire. And he went home for a 3-day weekend. And the guards that came on duty, I'm sorry, that was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At 4 o'clock, the shifts changed, and the guys that were on duty went home for the 3-day weekend. And the guys that came on duty saw a guy in a 3-piece suit and a tie in the cell, didn't really know what to do with me, so they left me there. Every time I yelled, I don't belong here, every con on the block said, I don't belong here either. Every time I asked for something to eat, the guard would say, I'll call Domino's, I'll be here in 30 minutes or less. I haven't made it yet. Every time I asked for a pillow, the guards would look at me and say, this isn't a hotel, this is a prison. It really sunk in when nighttime came and the guy in the next cell started to serenade me. I want to go home. 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 No, it's not me. That's a song I listen to all night long. Everything cleared up. The next day, powers that be saw what happened. Those big bars slid open. Everything was great. Went home. Took a 9-hour shower. Now you would think that that's the end of the story, right? I mean, professional speaker goes, gives a speech, gets locked up in a minimum security prison for the weekend. Pretty typical, you know, workman's comp thing, right? And when we say that's where the story would naturally end, I mean, I went home, everything was fine, right? 2 weeks later, I get a letter in the mail. Dear Michael J. Herman, according to our records, you are currently absent from the California Correctional Facility for really bad people without official authorization. If you do not return to the facility within 24 hours, a felony warrant will be issued in your name, and the California State Police or other law enforcement agencies will come and collect you. This is the only written notice you'll receive. Have a lovely day. Sincerely, Clarice P. Updike, Inmate and Community Relations. Dated 3 days before I got the letter. Now, what'd I just do? created sort of a combination of the forms we talked about. Crazy, giant, big, a little bit of inconsistency. You don't have to have pure forms in your comedy, in your humor. You just have to have them there. Now, how do you get good at these? You get good at doing it. When I started writing for television, I wasn't a very good comedy writer. I was very funny, naturally. But I didn't know how to form story, how to tell jokes, didn't know how to structure themes and backgrounds and personalities. The way you do that is you keep doing it and you practice. Practice, practice. But there are a couple of things you can actually know to help you get through that, help you get over that learning hump of humor. One of them is use names, places, dates, colors, flavors, specifics. When did I do that? I did that in every example that I did up here, didn't I? From my childhood brain injury story where I described the wooden sawdust, the metal, the paint, right? I did that when I was talking about the prison story. I was doing that in the dog story even. I didn't write the dog story. I just made it better. So let's take some questions because I've been talking up here for a long time.
You know, what I'm wondering
Jim.
is I'm a literal person. So if someone's telling a joke, I think it's 100% true, and that, you know, I would imagine myself wearing a suit and tie in a prison cell. So I'm saying I would be stuck in the prison over the weekend, and maybe I don't see it as funny because I'm thinking I'll be going to jail.
I see the humor in it.
So what's your question?
Well, are there times where you tell a joke and people don't get that it's a joke and they think it's real?
Okay, in my case, almost every day because I'm married to Penny. That is not an insult. It's one of the best things about Penny because she she sometimes doesn't know, am I serious? Am I not serious? Here is what's key, and I appreciate you asking that question because here is what's really key in humor and in comedy, okay? It doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to be believable. Have you seen Spaceballs with Mel Brooks? Do you think there were Jewish people flying through space at war with the other aliens? Do you? Because the only true part of that story actually is that Joan Rivers is part robot.
Part Botox.
It doesn't have to be real. If you're at the receiving end of humor, I don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, you have to be a little critical in your thinking, I guess, a little skeptical. Thank you. I'm searching for the word skeptical. Can this really be true? Now, you have to ask yourself, is my story true? I mean, I have a letter from the California Bureau of Prisons.
So that could be a fake letter, or
It could be a fake letter, it could be a completely made-up story.
Yeah, right.
Fake letter?
Or the story could be true at the criminal level,
Yeah.
and embellished and made huge and ridiculous and crazy.
Right.
Right? In sitcoms, we do that all the time. We take one little thing. Actually, I publish a daily syndicated column called The Motivational Minute. I've been doing that for 13 years, come next week. And I have friends.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have friends who don't tell me things in their lives anymore because they're friends. Okay, so you have to take, the point is, the reason I say that is because part true and a bunch of BS makes a big story. Actually, that's true for most of Fox News journalism. Any other questions? Question in the back. Hold on.
There was a funny bit that I don't think people caught with the dog when you were saying he's in a war saving people from exploding IUDs.
Yeah.
Which is actually it's like IDEs. Actually. Sorry. But
I said IUDs?
That's funny.
This was a dog that wasn't there for war. It worked. Thank you very much. That's great. I'm going to use that from now on. Because I didn't even hear myself say that.
Protection's protection.
It's called protectionist humor. Good. Thank you for that contribution. Anyone else? Okay, so I have a couple of things I want to talk about with humor before I wrap up. Stretch it out more. Okay. 15 more minutes? 13. Okay, this is the part where we meditate all together. Okay, see him? Okay, hold on.
On this self-effacing, right?
Self-effacing.
Right. So is there a judgment call in there on where to lose credibility, or where you've knocked yourself off a pedestal, or if you're making a formal speech that you're bringing humor into it, can you knock yourself down pretty far, or does it matter?
I think if you're like at the Northwestern Baptist Revivalist Convention, probably don't do a lot of self-effacing humor. Might want to keep to the Jesus humor. Wow.
pretty funny guy.
But it's really a judgment call, how comfortable you feel with making yourself look silly, dumb, whatever. I'm just so used to it. 70% of the comments that come out of my mouth at home are simply to get a rise out of my wife. It's up this year from 60 because I got in trouble last year. I'm such a low average. You know, the thing about self-effacing humor is very interesting because self-effacing humor isn't easy to harness. You know, because a lot of people have self-confidence issues, but it doesn't even have to be about you. And that's really important, actually, to bring up. It's not about you. It's about the audience. It's about how do I hook them in? How do I punch their button, but keep pounding on that same button until they say, let go? Right? I mean, you go to comedy shows, you see movies, sitcoms, comedians on the radio or on CD or online, whatever, and you sit there and you laugh. They're punching your button. They're going inside, they're going pound, pound, pound. With every pound, they get a laugh. If they hold it down, you can't even breathe, right? Like, trying to think of an example of who does that. Well, I think every great comedian really does that, but if you think about it, guys like back to Sid Caesar and Mort Saul and Jerry Seinfeld now does that a lot in his humor. Self-effacing humor, once you want to make yourself the victim, but you don't want to make yourself look retarded, right? And in some of our cases, you know, it's a fine line. It's hard to figure out where the retard starts and the victim begins, but... Hold on, let me come back. Another question.
Michael, I was wondering, you gave us 4 forms of humor, but I was wondering if those forms have to come to a moral to the story or even have a purpose.
They don't have to. You can. I mean, if you're telling a story is a thematic way of communicating an idea, right? A joke is, this happens and that happened. A story is, this happened to this person, then this happened, and then this happened. It's a series of sequences. Like I told the story about the prison incident. Some would call it an incident, I'd call it a reason for therapy. But I don't think they have to come to a head. A lot of people like conclusion, wrap up, like things nice and clean at the end so that they can leave the story whole and complete. They don't say, what happened? What about that detail that he or she said about this or that? And then they didn't go anywhere with it. I think when you get better at it, the more you work at it, the better it goes. I mean, But even the masters, even the writers and producers, the actors and performers on shows like Saturday Night Live, they're masters at this, but they screw it up all the time. And how many times do you watch a sketch and it goes nowhere? Well, if it got on the air, believe me, it went through pitch, it went through story development, it went through rewrite, it went through dress rehearsal, it went through blocking, it went through camera blocking, it went through whatever, right? I mean, lots and lots of layers and processes before it gets to your eyeballs. And it still didn't work, right? Sometimes movies that cost 30, 40, $100 million that happens too. Sometimes Broadway shows that happens. Question. Hold on, did I answer your question?
To a degree, yeah. It was good enough.
Do you want to elaborate on the question?
No, that's okay. Take us another.
Another degree.
In the movie Tropic Thunder, Ben Stiller plays a comedian who
Stop, that's one of my favorite movies.
played a complete retard, right? And they said you went complete retard. You're not supposed to do that. And what is intelligence? What role does intelligence play in humor? Like kind of, because you can't mock yourself too much, like playing complete retard, for example. But
Have you heard of Pauly Shore? That's not a dig. Pauly Shore built his whole early career on playing the imbecile. Jerry Lewis, his whole career was based on that. Yeah?
yeah, and it's interesting because there's that fine line between dig and humor, too. That's kind of gets a laugh or kind of like a laugh. What is that? It's like seems like to be a primate thing or something.
I don't have an anthropology degree. I don't know the answer to that. It's funny. You know, Judy Carter says if it's funny, it's funny. There's no reason for it. Sometimes we say or do things or hear things or see things that make us laugh, and there's no explanation for it. And if you try to dissect it, you say, well, why was that funny? Let's analyze it. Why was that funny? Why did we laugh at that? You really can't, because there's not always a reason why we laugh. Sometimes it's just instinct. Sometimes it's the id trying to get out. Or the id get connecting with the ed and that whole vowel confrontation. Yes, hold on. Craig Harrison, speaker.
Hey, Michael, 2 quick questions. One, for us to improve our chops, what are some recommendations? And before you leave, I'd love you to talk about, you write prolifically, you've brought different types of products, including one that I believe is funny by the title. Could you just tell us what you brought?
What was the first question?
I forgot. How can we improve? I mean, yeah.
How do you improve? Okay, where's my tote bag? Is my tote bag back there?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on 1 second. 5 minutes? Dun, 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 dun. That's the Tom Keller soundtrack, by the way. Dun, 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 dun. I've written movies, TV scripts, books, projects, audio programs, lots and lots of things, okay? Projects with these. Does anybody know what these are?
Sheraton notepads.
Notepads. Gentleman in the back has one. Everyone in here should get one of these. They cost about 60 cents at Walmart, Staples, Rite Aid, Costco. Everywhere sells these. There's absolutely no reason not to have one.
Cantu had one.
Use it. How do you use it?
Observe.
Open it. You see this? This is called a blank page. You should not have one in here. This is called a written on page. You keep it in your pocket. This one actually I love because it has a pen on the side. Comes with the pen. This actually I got at a trade show as a premium from a Sheraton La Jolla, which I'll probably now go to because I know what hotel it is. Right? The point is be thinking all the time. Okay, all the time. What are you thinking about? What do you want to achieve? Is it more humor, more jokes, more comedy? Start thinking funny. You want to be funny? Get out of victim. Get out of negativity. Get out of breakdown. Get into action. Comedy's not about breakdown. Comedy is about action. It's joke, it's story, it's movement. It's making people laugh, making people think. You want to get good at comedy? Start shooting jokes at people. You get a funny thought? Write it down. Or at least share it with somebody. You want to get good at comedy? Start practicing.
Tonight.
Tonight, for those of you that are going to compete in the comedy contest, or if not tonight, tomorrow when you go to work, or go see your family or friends. Don't be shy. You want to get good at comedy? Watch and emulate comedians that you really enjoy.
Product. Jewish
I've
mother
got
book?
3 products up here. How to win friends and influence people the Jewish mother way.
Autobiographical?
My mother dictated this to me over 37 years.
Every day.
She denies it. This is one of my best-selling products. It's a double cassette audio, the Michael J. Herman Motivational Adventure. This will kick your butt into action. It's motivating, inspiring, and powerful. One of the best investments you'll ever make. Whoops. And become the complete champion, one motivational minute at a time. A compendium of over 100 motivational articles that I've written with photos and quotes to reinforce the articles. Special prices here. Also, I do coaching. If you're interested in coaching, I'm offering more than 50%. How much?
More than 50.
More than 50% discount on my coaching to this group tonight only. Only. So if you want to get good at comedy, if you're interested in working with someone who loves comedy, who knows how to make people laugh, knows how to teach people how to make people laugh, I'm right here. I'm going to be right here or in the back. Thank you. My name is Michael J. Herman. And if nothing else, wear your pants on the way home.
Hey, Michael! Hey, next big
Thank you,
thing.
Michael. At this point, we will adjourn for a 10-minute food break.
Costume break.
Please see Michael's product table and talk to him about those coaching opportunities. Also,